So we're pretty much here throughout the mid-season mark of the 2025 college basketball season. Conference play just started up, and you're just starting to hear more rumblings about this incoming draft class. And today, I wanted to update you guys with my top 30 prospect ranking for the 2025 NBA draft. So I did do one of these before the season started, so you guys are going to see a PR on the screen. That will be what their preseason ranking was. If I didn't have them mentioned in that video, it's just going to be NA, but you'll see where they were at the start of the season to see if they've gone up on my big board or if they've dropped. And like always, let me know what you think about some of these prospects down below. Give me somebody that maybe you're a little bit higher on than I am, or somebody you're a little bit lower on. And I just love talking about the draft, so drop a thumbs up if you guys do as well, and you guys will get more just draft videos or just prospect videos in the future. All right, so I have 5 players that just missed out. They are going to be my honorable mentions. First one is Kobe Brea at Kentucky. Absolute sharpshooter this year. The Kentucky Wildcats have been a fun team. They don't have somebody like in the past that was always supposed to go in the top 10 or the top 5. They just have a really good team right now of kind of veterans in college basketball. And I think Kobe Brea is the most intriguing prospect out of everybody. Next up, I have Carter Bryant of the Arizona Wildcats. I do believe that Carter Bryant would probably benefit of staying another year of collegiate basketball, either at Arizona or transferring. But he's somebody that's 6'8", he's got good ball handling ability, good size, good defensive frame, but I think could use another year of development. My third honorable mention is a very fun offensive player playing for Indiana this year, and that is Mackenzie Mbako playing for the Indiana Hoosiers. He could score the ball in multiple different ways. He's a sophomore. He also spent last year at Indiana, and he's shooting 39% from 3 this year. I think he's a fringe first-round talent right now. I think at the end of the year, though, he'll get into that top 30. Next up, I have Hugo Gonzalez currently playing for Real Madrid. We just haven't seen a ton from Hugo this year. He was a projected top 15 pick going into this season, and Real Madrid is a very good team overseas, so he just hasn't had a lot of playing time. He definitely has some defensive potential over there. It's just such a small sample size to give him a top 30 spot. And the last spot is going to go to Adu Thiaro playing for the Arkansas Razorbacks, who has been probably the best Razorback this year, better than the top transfer they got in John L. Davis. And Thiaro shooting 60% from the field this year and is averaging 17 points per game. He can run in transition. He's a good athlete, fringe first round guy right now. So let's start off at number 30 with Drake Powell of the UNC Tar Heels. I think like Carter Bryant, Drake Powell could benefit staying another year of college, either at UNC or hitting the transfer portal. And I actually did make a video on my podcast talking about some of the draft risers and fallers from preseason expectations. Powell was one of the fallers. You guys can check that out. Link is in the description, but he definitely intrigues me as a 3D prospect. You could see some explosive defensive plays when you're watching UNC this year. He's been involved in the offense a little bit more, had a really good game against SMU. He's shooting 40% from 3 this season. It's just watching the UNC Tar Heels offense, Elliot Cadeau and RJ Davis, they're 2 ball dominant guards. So Drake Powell and a guy we're going to get to later in this ranking don't really get a ton of chances to be a primary ball handler or just an overall playmaker on the team. So I'm not going to look into Drake Powell's 0.9 assists per games too much, but he definitely intrigues me as a prospect if he was going to declare for this draft, because I think he could be a fun 3-and-D prospect. Next up, we have somebody that's really gone on my radar over the last couple of weeks, and that is Danny Wolf, the big man from Michigan. He played at Yale for the first 2 years of collegiate basketball in his career, and then last year transferred to Dusty May's program now of the Michigan Wolverines. And he's just a really, really fun big man prospect because he's 7 foot tall. He plays power forward this year because Vlad Golden, who is 7'1", plays the center spot. So they have this really fun 2-man duo there in the front court, 2 7-footers, and Danny Wolf does not look clunky out there whatsoever. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a Jakob Poeltl from his Utah days. He's a good playmaker for somebody that's 7 feet tall. He averages 4 assists per game. He's shooting 36% from 3 this season. He could be this 4 spacing 5 that definitely could work a little bit more on his defensive ability, but could be this versatile offensive talent at the next level in the NBA. And I think a lot of teams would be intrigued about Danny Wolf, somebody that can handle the rock well, that's 7 feet tall, good playmaker, and can shoot the ball a little bit. And next up at 28, we have another center. It is Thomas Sorber of Georgetown. Shout out to Georgetown having a first-round projected prospect this year, and Sorber definitely wasn't on my radar going into this year, so we shot up here to 28. I think he's a little bit better of a defensive prospect than Danny Wolf. That's why I have him 1 spot higher, because he's more traditional as a big man. He's not really going to take any threes, more of a back-to-the-basket guy. He's a very good athlete. He's averaging 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 2.5 assists this season, but he's a really good defender. 1.3 steals, 2.3 blocks, and I just think that defensive potential, what he could maybe be as a rim protector in the NBA, is going to earn him just 1 spot higher than Danny Wolf, just because I think when you're getting selected around here, teams may value what you could do in Thomas Sorber's prospect profile than Danny Wolf, but I think both of them are going to be first-round picks as of now. Next up at 27, we have somebody that could have been a top 45 pick last year. He decided to stay at Colorado State, and that is Clifford, the 6'5" guard. And Clifford is a very good rebounder for a guard. He's averaging 10 rebounds a night this year. year. He also averaged 7.5 rebounds a night last year. He spent 3 years at Colorado in 2021, 22, and 23, and last year and this year playing at Colorado State. He could score the basketball in a bunch of different ways. He shot 37% from 3 last year. That is down to 33% from 3 this year. But when you're watching Colorado State, he pretty much has to do a ton in this offense because he's one of the few guys that can create his own shot, that can get to the rim. I don't love him as a defensive prospect. I think he's a little skinny right now, but he is very quick, and that could maybe make up for the lack of strength. So we'll see if he gets better throughout this season on that end of the floor. Coming in at 26, we have somebody that could end up winning the Wooden Award this year, the best player in college basketball, and that is Janai Broom of the Auburn Tigers. Now, this is Janai Broom's 5th year of college basketball. He spent the 21 and 22 seasons at Morehead State and the last 3 years at Auburn. He was an All-American last year. This year, he's averaging 2.7 blocks per game. He's 6'10", and I think even though he's a little bit older as a prospect, he's going to be projected to be a good defender at the NBA level. He's an incredible athlete, can catch alley-oops, can run in transition, is a fantastic rebounder, and also a good playmaker as well. He's a good passer for somebody at his size, averaging 3.5 assists per game. He's going to take efficient and smart shots around the rim. He really can't do too much outside that, though. Not really a good shooter for most of his collegiate career, but just the energy he brings on both ends of the floor, I think should be a first-round pick right now. Coming in at 25, I have Will Riley playing at Illinois. I think like Drake Powell and I mentioned before with Carter Bryant, I wouldn't be totally surprised if Will Riley decides to stay another year at Illinois. He was somebody that was around like my 15th spot, and now he is dropping. He intrigues me a ton as a prospect, but his numbers have dropped after getting off to a very hot start this season. He's shooting around 39% from the field, 34% from 3, 72% from the line, averaging 11 points and 4 rebounds. He can score the basketball in a bunch of different ways. He's 6'8", which is good size for somebody of his archetype as like a shooting guard or a small forward, but he is very skinny right now, needs to put on some weight as a defender. I think would probably benefit staying another year playing college basketball, so I think this may be the last time he's going to be in my top 30 rankings, but if he does declare, he's still going to be around this range. Coming in at 24 is somebody that could have been a first-round pick last year, but he decided to try to get that three-peat at UConn this year, and that is Alex Caravan. You're just getting one of the most safe shooters in this draft. In his freshman year, he shot 40% from 3 on 4.2 attempts a night. Next year, he shot 38% from 3 in 2024 on 5.5 attempts a night, and this year on 6.7 attempts a night, he's shooting 41% from 3. That is an incredible sample size. He's one of the smartest off-ball players in the nation right now. He knows when to cut and slash when the ball is not in his hands. He can spot up shoot, he can move off the dribble, and it's just somebody you can plug and play in almost every modern day offense in the NBA as a three-point shooter. Not going to give you much defensively, but I think his safe shot and what he could do for you on that end of the floor earns him a first-round grade. He's also playing 35 minutes a night, which leads all of college basketball. Coming in at number 23, also another guy like Will Riley could definitely stay another year and maybe declare after his sophomore year is Jace Richardson, the son of NBA legend Jason Richardson. He's currently playing at Michigan State this year. He hasn't started a single game for the Spartans. He's averaging 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists, but he's shooting 60% from the field, 48% from 3, and 82% from the line. And I think the efficiency, the ball handling ability, is a 6'3" guard. I think there's a lot of NBA characteristics in Jace Richardson's game right now. It just really all depends. Is he going to get more playing time throughout the course of this season, throughout Big Ten play, or is he going to be somebody that is just like the top guy on this team next year, and he declares mainly for the 2026 draft instead of 2025? Coming in at 23, I have LeBlanc Phon of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Phon's a 6'4" point guard this year that has definitely rised up a ton of draft boards because of his play to start off his freshman year, where he's averaging 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists this year. He's a good defender. He can get into passing lanes, but he is a little bit skinny right now. I think could benefit putting on some weight, but he is 6'4". He's shooting 53% from the field. He's shooting around 30% from 3. The shot has been streaky this year, and the free throw percentage isn't great, but I think at the end of the first round could be like this year's Isaiah Collier and somebody that you're willing to take a chance on because of the offensive potential. And I think one of the few players that's coming in here at 21 that's actually helped his draft stock with international play this year is Noah Essen from France, who's currently playing for Rasheed Fleming in Germany. Essen was always an intriguing prospect because of his frame and obviously his raw potential right now, but somebody that could definitely be a very good defender at the NBA level with his wingspan, his quickness, and his size. He's averaging 12 points this year in Germany and 5 rebounds a night. He's averaging over a steal per game and is shooting 56% from the field in 14 Euro Cup games. I'm not gonna put too much stock into the GBBL numbers, but Essen has definitely helped out his draft stock this year, and I think a team either rebuilding or honestly contending would take a chance on him because he's somebody somebody that could have top 10 talent when it's all said and done from this draft class if he develops properly. And somebody in international play that has not helped his draft stock this year, Nolantayori, the point guard playing in France for St. Quentin. He was somebody that was a top 5 prospect for me in my preseason scouting, and this year it has not been a good year for him. He definitely has some upside though as a ball handler. He's a good facilitator and seems more mature as just like a leading quarterback out there initiating the offense, because he's playing talent that is bigger than him, stronger than him, older than him, and definitely better than him. And you could say it's probably a better league than some college basketball leagues. And in 21 games this year of professional play, he started around 13 of them. He's averaging 11 points and is shooting 35% from the field, 26% from 3, and 70% from the line. He definitely has some potential with his size defensively, but I have not seen it on display this year. I would not take him in the lottery as of now. I think he'd be a fun project if you're like the Brooklyn Nets and you have 4 first-round picks in this upcoming draft, or a team like Utah that also has multiple firsts, or maybe OKC who has multiple firsts as well, that could definitely benefit some time playing in the G League or just coming off the bench behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and learning from one of the best point guards in the league. I just wouldn't take Nolan in the lottery right now. Next up at 19, we have one of the best defensive prospects in this draft. He may be the best defender in this class, and that is Collin MurrayBoi of the South Carolina Gamecocks. MurrayBoi is averaging 15 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 assists this season. He's shooting 60% from the field, 30% from 3, and 69% from the free throw line, but he's averaging 1.3 steals, 1.3 blocks. I think he would go a lot higher if he was just maybe a little bit taller, because he is 6'7" and he's a forward right now. 6'7" is way too undersized to be an NBA modern day center. And at the 4 spot, he isn't as plus of a 3-point shooter as you would like for somebody that could be a stretch 4, but I think the defensive potential is there. He's a much better offensive talent than what Ryan Dunn was last year. He's not as good of a defender as Ryan Dunn at Virginia, but he's not far behind him, and I think teams are going to see that, and Collin MurrayBoi may go higher than we expect at the end of the day. Next up here at 18, we have somebody that's going to be competing with Janai Broom for the Wooden Award this year, and that is Cam Jones, the guard out of Marquette. I thought Cam Jones could have snuck his way into the first round last year, but he decided to stay at Marquette for his senior season. He's been getting better and better over every single year. They lost Oso Ighodaro and Tyler Kolek to the draft last year, and Cam Jones has stepped up as that number 1 option. He's averaging just under 20 points per game this year. He's averaging 6.5 assists and 5 rebounds. He's had a triple-double this year as well, and he's shooting 50% from the field, almost 35% from 3, and 75% from the free throw line. He's 6'4", he can defend well, he's smart on both ends of the floor, and if you're a team trying to compete and make the playoffs next year, I think he could be this year's version of Devin Carter that we all love to try to go on a team that was trying to make the playoffs when he got drafted. Coming in at 17, we have Ben Seraph from Israel, who's currently also playing with Noah Essengate at Rasheed Fleming this year, and throughout 25 games, his numbers aren't as good as Noah Essengate's, but I think he projects to be a little bit of a more safe prospect because he can control the rock, he can get his teammates involved, he's got a good frame, and throughout 25 games this year, he started 12 of them. He's averaging 12.8 points, he's shooting 47% from the field. The 3-point shot has struggled, he's at 27%. He's a 73% free throw shooter, averaging 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and over a steal a night. He can definitely be a good defender, but I think he's got a little bit of a ways to go. But he's a 6'5" guard that can play make and that can also project to be able to guard defenders taller than him at the NBA level. That's definitely going to be on a lot of scouts' eyes, and he's just 2 spots off my top 15. Coming at 16, we have somebody that played at Montverde Academy. I have 4 of those guys in this top 30, and he's the first one that we're going to mention. He's currently a power forward at Georgia this year, averaging 15.5 points, 7 rebounds, and is shooting 58% from the field. Asa is 6'11". I don't think he's as good of a rebounder or as physical inside or just a good enough defender in the post or against stronger big men to be a center at the NBA level. I wish his 3-point shot was a little bit better this year because he does take a decent amount, over 2 a night, but just shooting at 29% is tough for him to be a good, consistent stretch 4, but he can handle the rock very well. I don't think he's a bad defender against forwards, maybe just a little bit against centers, but he's somebody that could be an intriguing big man prospect for a lot of teams, and he just misses out on the top 15. Coming in at 15, though, is one of my favorite prospects in this draft. And I'll be honest, I didn't know much about him going into this season, but more and more I watched Rasheed Fleming at St. Joe's. I think is a top 15 guy in this class. He's 6'9", 220. He's one of the most athletic players in this class. He could put you on a poster. He runs in transition so well, and he can actually give you a couple highlight plays every single night. He's also averaging 16 points, 9 rebounds. He's a very good rebounder because he's a great athlete. He can go up and get them. He's shooting 57% from the field, 42% from 3, but 68% from the free throw line. But he's averaging 1.8 steals, 1.4 blocks. He can guard multiple positions. He could switch very well, and I think that's where his athleticism helps him out so much because he's super quick laterally, he can drop, and he can contest very well against bigger opposing offensive players. And just somebody that's 6'9", that's a crazy athlete that could also be a good floor spacer. 42% from three, basically. Just imagine what he could be as a good ball handler in the NBA. He's basically just like a stretch 4 3-and-D prospect. I don't know how that's not a top 15 guy in this class. Coming in at number 14, we have our second UNC Tar Heel, and that is Ian Jackson, who's currently a 6'4" guard. He, like Drake Powell, doesn't get a ton of time to initiate this offense because that's pretty much all RJ Davis and Elliot Cadeau at times, and some of the other older players on the roster. But the freshman is shooting 50% from the field, 40% from three, and is averaging 15 points and 3.5 rebounds. And over his last 5 games, he's dropped 24 points against UCLA, 26 points against Campbell, 23 points against Louisville, who have a very good defender in Chucky Hepburn, 27 points against Notre Dame, and 18 points against SMU. Ian Jackson's a good athlete. He can run the floor and he can put the ball in the hoop. The only downside, he's 6'4", 190 as a guard that really can't play make as of now. That's something he needs to grow on over the course of this year. He's averaging just 0.8 assists a night, so he's kind of in a weird position right now positionally, similar to what I was talking about before with Colin Murray-Boyle. It's just at the opposite end of the lineup. Coming in at 13, we have our second UConn Husky that we're going to mention, and that is Liam McNally, and also our second Montverde player that we're also going to mention. This year, McNally for the Huskies is shooting 38% from three. He's averaging 13.5 points, just under 6 rebounds, and 2.5 assists a night. And I think McNally could definitely fit into a ton of systems too. Like, I could just imagine him on the San Antonio Spurs being the spot-up shooter for Wemby in that half-court. Teams are going to be double-teaming Wemby. You could get to somebody that is one of the more safer shooters in this draft, and I think a lot of teams will realize that. I just love to see him on a team just that he could just be this connecting piece, and I think that's what he's going to be. He's not going to be an all-star or an all-NBA player most likely one day, but he could be a very good player in the NBA for a long, long time. And next up, we have somebody in a similar range to Liam McNally as a prospect, and that is Con Knipple over there at Duke. Also somebody that is projected to be one of the better shooters in this class. Absolute elite free throw shooter, 93% from the line, 36% from three this year, 43% from the field. What I like about Con's game just a little bit more than McNally, I think he can put the ball on the ground a little bit better. I think he's a little bit better of an athlete as well. He's 6'7", 217, a better defender than Liam McNally, and I think could be a true 3-and-D prospect in this draft. And I think I've been going back and forth all year long. Who do I like more between Con or McNally? Both these guys are on great teams that utilize their skill sets to their highest potential right now, but I think Con can do a little bit more than McNally at the end of the day. Next up at 11, I have Derek Queen playing at Maryland, somebody that I didn't think was a first-round pick going into this year, and he's somebody that is now turned into my second best center in this class. Move over Rocco Zikarsky, who's now like around 40-ish on my big board. Now we have Derek Queen, who's center 2, and he's also the third Montverde guy that we have talked about, because we've already talked about Austin Newell, Lee McNally, and now Derek Queen. You can probably guess who the last guy is if you know high school hoops like that, but Derek Queen this year averaging 16 points and 8 boards for the Maryland Terps. He's shooting 56% from the field, and I think why he is not center 1 for me, I don't think he's going to be this elite rim protector, shot blocker, defender at the NBA. At least I don't think he has the potential in doing so. I worry about his footwork just not being as quick as my center 1 in this class when they reach their fullest potential. But Derek Queen can run the floor. He's a good offensive talent. He could score inside. He could throw it down. He could jump from the restricted area and just yam it on you. And he's a solid rebounder. And I think just having that center that can run the floor and use his athleticism in that way is somebody that you could definitely take in the top 15. It's just really who's going to draft Derek Queen? Who's going to give him his post touches every night? Because he's not somebody that's going to knock down threes or hit a mid-range jumper. He relies on his post game, and that's just not what the NBA is anymore. Coming in at number 10, we have somebody that you could probably say after week 3 of the college season, people were ready to say he was a top 5 prospect. I was never that high on him, but I think he's a top 10 guy, and that is Igor Demir, currently playing at BYU. So he came over from Real Madrid. He's from Russia. This year for the Cougars, he's averaging 11.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, but 6 assists for somebody that's 6'9", 190. He's shooting 44% from the field, 30% from 3, and 67% from the line. What I like about Igor's game is, like, somebody that's 6'9", that can facilitate. He does have some shooting potential in this league, and he's got a good wingspan as well. I just think for him as a ball handler, it's a little bit stiff. There's somebody that's going to come in at number 4 that could be in a similar boat to Igor Demir, but he's a lot more twitchy with the ball in his hands, and I think Igor Demir doesn't have that first burst or that quickness to beat defenders off the dribble or attack closeouts. So I think that's something to monitor, especially throughout Big 12 play, but he's definitely somebody on my radar because he's 6'9" and he can pass the ball very well, and he looks like the game can slow down for him. One of my favorite point guard prospects in this draft is Boogie Flynn, coming in at number 9. When I made my top 30 prospect video going into the year, I said he was a name name to keep an eye on, and he could definitely be in the top 10 at the midseason update. And here we are coming in at number 9. I think Boogie Flynn could be this year's Rob Dillingham, basically someone that is just this microwave scorer that can get to the rim with ease and can knock down threes. He's shooting 36% from 3 this year, 81% from the free throw line. I'd like for him to be a little bit better at the rim, and he's had some bad games recently against Tennessee and against Ole Miss, but I think he's a good enough passer. He's averaging 6 assists per night, 3.5 rebounds for somebody at 6'2", but he's also 210 pounds, and I think that strength can hold up on the defensive end of the floor. It's just he's 6'2". I'm going to learn my lesson with Rob Dillingham, and I don't know if I can put him that much higher throughout the rest of these rankings. Here's another point guard prospect coming in at number 8 that I like a little bit more than Boogie Flynn because he's 6'4", 180. That is Jeremiah Fears, currently playing at Oklahoma. Somebody I also wasn't very familiar with going into this year's season. He rocks a dope headband. He's shooting 49% from the field, 84% from 3. His three-point shot has been inconsistent. He's around 30% right now, but he's averaging 17.5 points. He's the main guy on this Oklahoma offense, 4 rebounds and 4 assists. Something that I've noticed about his game, though, he finishes a ton with his right hand, and I feel like doesn't want to use his left hand as much. And if I can tell that, I'm sure a lot of advanced scouts at the college level and at the NBA level can realize that as well. So that's something he's going to have to work on, but he's got good court vision, good confidence in his shot, and he can also knock down a mid-range jumper, and I think is a top 10 prospect right now. But coming in at number 7 is my center 1 in this draft, and that is Kamon Watch over there at Duke. He's 7'2", he's 250 pounds, he's one of the younger players in this draft. He's still incredibly raw as a prospect, but he's somebody that I think, when it's all said and done, could be an elite rim protector at the NBA level. I like his defense more than Thomas Sorber's, Danny Wolf, Rocco Sikorsky's, and Derek Queen's. Most of the centers that I've mentioned in this video, he's averaging just 8 points and 5.5 rebounds for Duke this year. He's not super involved in the offense. It does help that he's playing with one of the best power forward defenders in the country. Somebody we'll get to there at the top, but I do think Kamon at 7'2" and just 250 pounds, he's going to get stronger. He's going to get more smarter and a better feel for the game. Could be one of the best defenders at the NBA level. Just missing out on the top 5, I have Trey Johnson at Texas, one of the best scorers in this draft. He was a good shooter in high school, and he's a great shooter this year for the Longhorns. 18.5 points. He's shooting 46% from the field, 40% from 3, and 85% from the line. Now, he struggled in his last 2 games against A&M and Auburn, so it's something to keep an eye on during conference play, but he has got one of the smoothest mid-range jumpers in this class. He's got a step-back jumper that looks great as well, and he can score with ease. He's 6'6", 190. He's got a long wingspan to shoot it over tall defenders as well. I do worry about his frame, though, defensively. I've not liked what I've seen from Trey Johnson defensively this year. Will he be any better as a playmaker throughout the course of this year? There's definitely some weaknesses in Trey Johnson's game that he has to work on, but I just love his scoring upside, and that's why I have him at number 6. So coming in at number 5 is somebody that has not been scoring the ball as well as Trey Johnson this year, but I think he does everything else so well. 6'5" guard, 180 pounds, VJ Edgecombe at Baylor. Yeah, I still think he's a top 5 prospect in this draft. He's averaging 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. This guy is an explosive defender. He's averaging 2.5 steals per game this year and a block as well as a point guard. He doesn't turn the ball over too much, and yes, you'd like for him to be a better shooter in this class, but he's one of the most athletic guys in this class. He's like basically this year's Amen Thompson. He can defend very well. He could jump out of the gym, run in transition, get rebounds, pass a little bit. It's just the shot may need some work, but I do think from what we've seen this year from VJ Edgecombe, he's a top 5 player in this class. It's like Trey Johnson could shoot well and not do a lot of other things well. VJ Edgecombe could do a lot of other things well, but he just can't shoot well right now. But coming in at number 4, somebody I compared to earlier with Igor Demir, someone I think is way more just twitchy, elusive with the ball in his hands, and that is Kaspars Kuznets, playing at Illinois. He played at Barcelona last year. He's Lithuanian, and he is shooting 50% from the field, 41% from 3, and 88% from the free throw line, 16.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists. He is 6'6", 205, and he can handle the ball so well. He knows where to be when the ball isn't in his hands. He can move off ball extremely well. He can run in transition. He plays with so much energy, has a high motor, and has one of the best basketball IQs in this draft. He's such a safe shooter. He can get into passing lanes as well because he's not the greatest athlete, but he can read plays one step ahead. Kaspars Kuznets has jumped from somebody that wasn't even in my top 10, I believe, in my preseason rankings, and now he's number 4, and I think there's a chance he could be higher than this at my end of the year rankings. But still coming in at number 3, I haven't changed my opinion on him too much. He has dropped a spot, and that is Ace Bailey of Rutgers. Ace Bailey has been, man, a polarizing prospect this year. A ton of discourse around Ace Bailey because he's averaging 0.7 assists per game. He's averaging 19 points, 7.5 rebounds, 46% from the field, 34% from 3, 55% from the free throw line. There's a lot of things about Ace Bailey's game that scares me. I will not lie. He can't get to the rim a ton. He picks up his dribble way too early and then just hits like the toughest shots you're going to look, like a fallaway jumper, shot clock winding down, defender's hand literally in his face. But there's some other games where it's just like, I worry about his decision making, not a good playmaker. I think he could average a couple more assists. Like Rutgers, the team around him isn't the best outside of a guy we're going to get to at number 2. But Ace Bailey, he's 6'10". He's 6'10 right now. He's got a good ball handle and he can score in multiple different ways right now. I think he needs to go to the right environment and situation at the NBA level, but I don't think I could drop him from number 3 right now. But I think him and Kaspars are right now neck and neck for that 3 and 4 spot. But still for right now, I have Ace Bailey at number 3. But coming in at number 2, I got his teammate, Dylan Harper. It's funny that Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper could go 2 and 3 in this draft, and Rutgers is probably not going to make the March Madness tournament. Harper's averaging 21 points per game this year, 5 rebounds, 4.5 assists. He's shooting 52% from the field, 37% from 3, and 75% from the free throw line. He's a 6'6 guard. I love that he could play the 1 or the 2 at the NBA level. You could throw him on Washington. You could throw him on New Orleans. You could even throw him in Sacramento, and it could work out because he could play the point guard spot or the shooting guard spot. I think a big question, will his shot translate to the NBA level? I don't think he's ever going to be somebody that's going to consistently shoot 38, 39%, but somebody that could shoot 35, 36%, 100%. He's got a great dribble package. He can run the floor. He can play make. He can initiate an offense. There could be some question marks defensively, but just the offensive talent, presence, the pedigree, being the son of Ron Harper, brother of Dylan Harper Jr. There is so much to love about Dylan Harper's game. Got him in at number 2. But coming in at number 1, maybe to some surprise, maybe to no surprise, I still have Cooper Flagg, the main event, currently playing at Duke, just because of what he could be as a two-way player at the NBA level. I talked about before, Kamal Maliwat playing with an elite power forward defender next to him. That is Cooper Flagg. Flagg this year shooting 46% from the field, 30% from 3, 78% from the free throw line. You'd like for him to be a little bit more consistent with this 3-point shot, but I think that's going to come. He's a good free throw shooter. He's got a good mid-range jumper. He's averaging 17.5 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 3.7 assists as a freshman at Duke. He's one of the best defenders in the country. He could be an All-American first team at the end of the year as a freshman. That's how good he is. The ACC has not been a good conference this year, but Cooper Flagg is the best player on Duke, who's one of the best teams in the country still, even with the ACC somewhat dying. He dropped 24 against Virginia Tech, 24 against SMU, 19 against Pittsburgh. His 3-point shot is getting better and better, and just his elite two-way potential at the NBA level, I just cannot have him at number 1 right now. He's not going to be somebody that's like Victor Wembanyama. He's not a generational prospect, but he's in that tier of Anthony Edwards and Cade Cunningham, somebody that could be an All-NBA or an All-Star talent one day. 100%. So that's gonna be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know what you guys thought about it down below. Subscribe if you're not already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.